Gentlemen, the floor is now open as the ministers kindly consented to receive questions. Oh, there is a hand over there.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm very glad for this meeting, and I'm also happy to know that the focus from the minister presentation was based upon the historical gaming industry, which is the racers thing, which is here over 130 years. My problem with the new amendment to the regulation is that I supported it. Mr. Lee, Mr. Hamilton, Mr. Azar can tell you. Maybe 20 years we've been asking for that. But my problem, Mr. Minister, who is going to enforce the rules that were made last year? Because the enforcement of rules in Jamaica is a problem. And the other point, as far as the racing is concerned, for us to enforce rules as it should in any gaming industry, down there you need to have some form of social revolution. Racing industries came from the plant. Have some form of, I would call it like what China did when we talk about the social revolution. They used to fight and now they're progressive. The other point is that about 2 or 3 years ago, we wrote to the then Prime Minister, a former Prime Minister, advising him that if they are going to accept casino, when they come to Jamaica, they wouldn't be surprised if you ask for some fees from the gambling, because when you have casino, it's a competitor to the racing industry. And I want all the people here to know that the racing industry is a picture of success. It's an addicted involvement. And therefore you don't see the real situation as it should. But there is a letter to the Prime Minister, who was Mr. Golden at the time, requesting that any casino came, that a percentage should come to the racing industry. It's the oldest one in Jamaica. The industry is a viable industry, big industry, and I want to know from now, every little district in Jamaica, Mr. Minister, you know I go everywhere, about Japan, and the super inventor people turn it into a collective thing, and it turn over billions of dollars. Every little district you go now, you have a second super invention. I would like to know how you are going to deal with that aspect. Thank you very much.
First of all, enforcing regulations is something that we always have to look at. Eh? You make laws and the laws are not enforced. There are penalties for the breach of these laws, which we must enforce. This industry, as I said, because it is getting modern or more modern, it is expanding and will further expand, because all different kind of persons have interest in different aspects of the industry. And therefore it is incumbent upon us, all of us to suggest ways and means as to strengthen the enforcement. That's why we meet as stakeholders. If there are shortcomings in the regulations, if there are shortcomings in the enforcement structure, you can tell us, and we are open. There's a very, very open administration to suggestions to correct whatever we need to correct. I just say that. We don't pretend to know it all. In fact, personally speaking, I knew nothing about this gaming industry. Absolutely nothing. I knew nothing about racehorse and gambling and these things, the tenets of it, nothing. We have learned and we have evolved and we are open. And we have looked at best practices. What we want to put in place is best practice. And you are stakeholders in the system. Help us to put in the best practice. That's the first thing. Secondly, in terms of paying a cess and all these things, we have not yet decided on those things because we have not yet reviewed the applications and take a decision. The operationalization of the casinos, of course, when we get there, the cabinet will take certain decisions. And I agree with you, the racehorse industry is one that we need to ensure that we protect. Illegal betting, illegal gaming generally, as I said in my few words of comments, we have to find a way to combat it. It's not government responsibility alone to combat illegal gaming and drop on and illegal lottery and illegal. I hear something this week that people on the Farm Work program are now buying illegal betting overseas. They listen to the man selling the bet and selling the numbers, man selling racehorse on the farms. So people, we are creative, we are genius at many things. We have to find ways that it is illegal. In Toronto, the province of Ontario, it's prison work that. But people are doing it. We have to find ways and means to combat illegal gaming in Jamaica, to protect those persons who have made their investment, creating jobs and paying their taxes. We must find ways to combat it. Yes, well, we're
Any other?
I'll just add to the minister. Vin, one of the things, what you're seeing rolling out is part of an overall strategic plan based on the mandates from Minister Dalley and things. So the motto is enable, facilitate, regulate. So we've gone through the first two, which is enabling. So this is what the amendments are doing. It's creating that enabling framework. The facilitation aspect is for you as entrepreneurs to take advantage of those opportunities, and we as a regulator to guide you through that process. And then we will finalize with regulating, which is fundamentally Vince's point. The reality is that there is no secret. We know where all illegal guys are. We know who's involved, and it's very simple. Anytime their customers have a problem, they come to the BJLC to complain, right? But the best way to combat illegal gambling, as far as we're concerned, when I say we, I'm talking a collaborative effort between the chairman of CTL, the chairman of JRC, and Casino Commission, is to create an environment where the legal operators will want to become legal. And we feel that with this enabling legislation, there is incentive there for them to become legal. But you know, some people head tough. So you will hear us speak later on about the gaming management information system. And that is also another step to combat it. Because this is where, in moving towards technology, we are going to interface with our stakeholders via an electronic framework. It will allow us to target and understand more of what is happening on a legal aspect. And finally, the good old situation. We can now put all our resources, after we've done all of what I've said before, into hardcore enforcement. To date, our arrests has gone up over 70%, right? But again, it doesn't make sense to take somebody out of a community if there isn't a legal way to change that, because when you take them out, somebody is just going to spring up, right? So we feel at the end, we have put in place fixed penalties. There are fines that go as high as $1 million. So we feel that is a very big incentive for people not to go the route of illegal gambling. We've made the process very simple because it's going to be similar to a traffic ticket. The police and our enforcement people will have a ticket book, and once they identify the breaches, they can issue that ticket. If you choose to pay the ticket, great. If not, and go to court, you might see where the fine increases. So we'll put that framework in place, Vin. So at the end of the day, we have identified it, we know what the problem is, and we have some solutions. Let's meet again next year, and let's see how it will work at that time. All right?
Mr. Minister, if I could you had somebody before me?
Richard was before.
Oh.
Richard, first of all.
Morning, all.
Morning.
Mr. Peart, I'm just wondering, while you maintain that the BJLC is an enabling entity, I would draw a parallel to the KCC, where we would establish some operating standards to which you would be holding yourself accountable. I.e., how long should it take to approve a betting parlor? How long should it take to approve a slot machine parlor? How long should it take to open an OTB? I'll go further to suggest that if you had a checklist, then people should actually be allowed to comply with that checklist, and then be a very hefty if when you come to inspect, they are not complying. But if you want the revenue, I think we need to make sure that implementation is in fact the same as enabling. Because when you talk in the past to your staff, they speak of a lack of resources and a lack of personnel in which to address all the volume of work that is presented to them.
Richard, thank you for that. I noticed towards the end of what you said, you spoke about in the past. Just to answer your question, yes, that is a part of the strategic change that we're going through. As you can imagine, it's just been 2 short years. I think we've done quite a bit, but I did state that we have a lot more to do. I'd ask Jack just to indicate what has actually gone up on our website in terms of some of those standards, because ultimately that was a mandate from Minister Dalley for us to achieve. Jack?
Yeah. Mr. Lacan, members present. Somehow, I think we had anticipated that such a question would have been asked this morning. And in the last couple of months, we have updated our website. We have made it interactive. A lot of the applications can be done online. We have a checklist in place also, and we have established timelines with our customer charter in which some of the activities you can expect, as long as you comply and do your part of the application process. We give a timeline in which we will complete our investigation, and so to enable you to get on with your business. But for those who are unaware, if you take a chance, get the time rather, and have a look at our website, it will be very revealing what we have done in the last few months to enable and to facilitate all the players and stakeholders in the industry.
Thanks, Jack. The final point I want to make, and it's not just to you, Richard, but to all of you here. We can't change what has happened in the past. All we ask is that in the communication with you guys, when we hear and we start to make the change, focus on where we're going, right? Because I said, Richard, exactly what you've asked for is our mandate within the DGLC, and Jack and his team have actually been achieving those things. So we ask, look at what we're doing, and as we change and go forward, let's focus on that. Let's leave what has happened in the past. Thanks.
Mr. Hamilton, your turn.
Mr. Minister, so good to have you here and to listen to what you have had to say. I think, however, there's some correction. You have been misinformed if you have been advised that the racing industry is profitable and valuable. The stakeholders are suffering and have been suffering consistently. We are unable to meet our bills because of the inability of the promoting company to pay the persons that are required and also to pay them on time. We have had an increase. Last increase was in 2009. The cost of a bag of feed then was $560 a bag. It is now $1,530 a bag. The average daily cost of keeping a horse then was $1,100. It is now $2,000 a day. And we have had no adjustment. In fact, we have had the unconscionable act recently of the promoting company reducing purses in the major races, right? Something which we consider to be totally unconscionable, and hope we can address that and have them reinstitute those purses. When we should be looking for increases, we are getting reductions in purses. And another aspect, right, Mr. Minister, I'm hoping that the amendments to the Gaming Act would reintroduce a levy scheme that was introduced some years ago, and which was the raison d'etre for the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission. That Section 28 particularly relates to what contributions were made from the tax or levy taken from bookmakers and given back to the racing industry in terms of subsidies for the breeding industry, and also various other aspects of contribution which are dictated in that section of the Act. And finally, I hope this summit will also have a look at the contribution of various sectors of gaming. What are the career opportunities that exist in a lottery? What career opportunities exist in a casino? What career opportunities exist in a slot machine operation? And compare those with the gaming opportunities in the racing industry. And you'll find that there's farming, there's agriculture, there's the veterinary side of it, the medicine, there's the professional trainers, there are professional jockeys who go abroad and are successful in terms of sending home money to their relatives here. The career opportunities and the social interaction of racing is such that it needs the constant support. And if the gaming pie reduces and the percentage going to racing reduces, then it means that you have to find some means of supporting racing industry. And what Bined was recently said about taking access from casinos, I would like to take access from all aspects of gaming and feed this back into the racing industry to develop it and make sure that there is a viable industry existing here. Thank you.
The amendment, just one thing I'd like to respond to. There are other comments that you have made that I think we need to talk privately. The whole gaming industry comprises the horse race people, the slot machine people who see it as a business. Some people like it, but people are creating jobs by operating these things. People are entering into business, a business decision. Someone take to open a gaming lounge to employ 20 persons and pay their taxes. I'm interested in them paying their taxes, good regulatory framework, make sure that they are protected, as Richard said. Someone wants to open a gaming lounge, there are the operating procedures, people can go, do these things, they are approved quickly, etc., etc. The amendments, last year when we met, the outcry, if you remember last year when we had the Racehorse Summit, the tension at the beginning and the hostility ended up into a beautiful day because people calmly says this is where we want to go. And one of the things they said was amend the levy scheme to ensure that that which was taken from the breeders, which was taken from other aspects, JRC and other people who need to get part of this pie, was not getting it. And that has been done. So the breeders will have a percentage, and I think Ms. Roden will address it later on, what percentage goes to, in the new arrangement, what percentage, right, or Chris will do it. So, one second, Chris. So we take what our stakeholders say, but I never wanted, as I said last year, to have a conflict between gaming and horse racing. It's one industry that we want harmony. And you choose horse race because you love it. I see you wrote from Dubai recently a piece, you were at a major place. Other people will leave from here and go to Vegas to see how casino is operating, to see if they are the best practice. You know what I mean? So there are people who love one side of the industry and others who love the other side of the industry. Let's work together. Let's hear from all sides.
Shortly outlined, most of these elements will have to be discussed in the panel discussions later on to get to the bottom of the issues. But it is important to outline that we did not get where we are as it relates to the racing industry overnight. When this board and the new management team that is in place now inherited the overseeing of the company, there was a $920 million debt that we had to our stakeholders. We inherited 147 million in terms of losses when we started, and we have significantly eroded those losses in terms of the management principles and the financial controls that we have introduced. What we are embarked upon now, and which we'll have to discuss later on, is a growth agenda. Howard is clear that the days of getting support from the central government in terms of subsidizing and financing the operations of the track has long passed. That's over. But he spoke to the issue of the bookmakers levy, and as the Minister correctly says, and Mrs. Roden will outline, that has been approved, and I believe that we are going to get 2.5% as a direct contribution to the purse as of April 1.
Should be 100%, not 2.5.
And there's also a 0.5% to the breeders. So I think that strides are being made. We are not yet profitable, but that 147 million loss that we inherited has now been reduced to 38 million over the last 2 years. So we are making strides. All is not still well, but I believe we are headed on the right path. But later on we can divulge and get deeper into the specifics.
Yeah.